Okay, the recording has started. So, good evening, everyone. My name is Alex Adeyemi. I'm the community manager for this track. And today we are going to be having Mr. Giwa as our mentor, who is excited. I know you guys are excited, but let's see how it goes. So, Mr. Giwa, you have the floor. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. Um, Hope you all can hear me. You can just signify if you can hear me.
Yeah,
Can you
we
all hear me,
can.
please? All right. Um, so like Alex said, my name is Edmund Giwa Jr. I know he said I barely post on LinkedIn. I'm guilty as charged though. I'm very antisocial. All right. So I'll be sharing my screen very, very soon. Just give me a sec, please. Okay. All right, just to verify, can you also see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right. Um, start from the beginning. Okay. So, like I said, yeah, Edmund Giwa, and I'm very thrilled. I'm excited to share insights on front-end engineering and mentorship today. I mean, it's a very opportunity, but um, yeah, and hopefully by the end of this session, we should be able to gain, practical knowledge on responsive designs, APIs, and building scalable front-end solutions. Right. So I would love this session to be as interactive as possible. So any question or anything you guys need to ask me, I'm very much down for you. Hope you got that, please. All right. So I'll proceed then. So today or right now we'll be speaking about a lot of things in front end in general. I mean, we'll be going not so complex or just something that we could know to prepare your mind or to just get you in that mood that okay, front end is the way to go or the way forward right now. And we'll be discussing about front end of engineering overview, basic skills and technologies. And this is very important because the world of front end is evolving, right? Previously, we had just React. Now we have, you know, so many initializers, which, I'll be touching base on each of them. Then we have best practices in front end development because, I mean, most of the amazing websites we see right now, they won't still be there if, some of these best practices were not taken into place. I mean, they will be building, we're looking at building responsive web designs. No one goes around with their laptops that much anymore. We can access all our websites from our phones, from our watches, anywhere on portable devices. And yeah, integrating APIs too, is something we need to know as a front-end engineer. And yeah, I'll be sharing some of my favorite, resources or my go-to when I need to learn something, when something new comes into play and I just need to, catch up on the new system. And then yeah, and yeah, number seven is basically like a bonus, the role of AI in front-end development. So we should be able to touch base on each and every one of them and see how it goes. All right. So, hope you all can still hear me, please. You can stop me anytime. You can't, you don't really understand what I'm saying, or I just want to verify if you all are following so we can continue. Anyone?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. So, first question is, what does a front-end engineer do? I get so many of these questions so many times because people feel, okay, I'm a front-end developer. All I need to do is just create your website and that's it. I mean, there's a lot, there's a lot, there's a lot to consider, like becoming a front-end developer, or there are lots of responsibilities of a front-end developer. So it's not just creating a website or creating a web application or something users can interact with. Is actually putting a lot of things into considerations, like how best are the users interacting with this application I created. I mean, how are the users doing? Are they dropping off, or are they finding it hard to even click this particular button? There are just so many things you consider, right? So right now I'll be, going through 5 things, right, that a front-end developer, you know, is attributed to a front-end developer per se. So for a front-end developer, building user interfaces is the first. Once, okay, once you're tagged as a front-end dev, what you do is you build things that users see. You're like the first person. So there's always this myth between, or a fight, an unspoken battle between back-end developers and front-end developers, right? Because back-end guys, they feel, they do everything. But I feel, you know, front-end guys are the main guys, if we're being honest. Because everything that happens at the back is not savable. We, as a front-end developer, whatever we do is what 10,000s to millions of users will see every day. They interact with these things every day. So we'll be looking at, as a front-end developer, building interface is your first thing. Creating visually appealing and interactive web pages is one thing a front-end developer does. As a front-end engineer, this is my main or my primary goal or my primary aim. Then we'll be looking at core technologies that, as a front-end developer, you should, you know, be able to work with. So in previous times, we used, just HTML and CSS and JavaScript. I believe, at least we know a bit or two on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. You can stop me if you have any questions or so. Yeah. So these are the core technologies. Just this first three. We'll take this first three. HTML, CSS, where we have more of our old websites where there are not like much interactions or life to it. It's just pure designs, just a button you click, you see a form. These are the things that happens behind the scene. For users, this is what they just see the UI. But as a developer, you are interacting with these guys. So HTML, CSS, and we move on to frameworks like React, Vue, and Angular. Now, when we talk about frameworks here, frameworks are, piece of codes coming together to just make up like their best practices, their codes that are just there for us to work with as a front-end developer. They make life easy for a front-end developer. So you're working with React now. There are inbuilt codes inside these guys where, as a developer, you can just go in, you can work with them. Very, very easy and, less stress. And one thing, good thing about React is it has a vast environment. The community is large. So there is no problem. You are never alone when you're working with React, Vue, or Angular. I think I should have added one more thing to Next.js, but yeah, we'll discuss that later on. Because and now let's move to user experience. So we say, okay, as a front end engineer, your primary aim is to build user interfaces, right? And to build these user interfaces, you have to work with the core technologies, which is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Then, what are we building? That's where UX comes into play. Now, you're ensuring, responsiveness and accessibility and usability in the sense that whatever you're creating has to be perfect. I mean, not everyone is perfect, but as a front end developer, you need to aim for, I mean, not be too selfish, but you need to aim for at least 80 to 90% of perfection. Because, yeah, this is what users will be using, right? So the UX, that's the user experience, has to be very, very perfect. I mean, when you're building things, you consider, okay, as a user myself and also a developer, would I like this particular thing here? Is this website visible? Is this website nice to my eyes? Something like that. So, as a front end engineer, this is what you're supposed to put into consideration. The user experience is very, very, very important. In fact, more important than anything, because before we even start building interface, you first think of the user experience. How will the user interact with whatever I'm doing right now? Okay. That aside, now there is connecting with the backend. I already discussed, I think I made mention of the front end and back end. There's always going to be a sync. There must be a sync between the front end and the back end because now users, for example, let's take a look at Facebook, right? Facebook has a UI. I mean, the UI, you can see pictures, you can see comments, you can see posts, or we talk about X. You can see all these things. You see a post here, a post there, and everyone commenting and all those other stuff. Now, there is something working behind the scene, right? Apart from making the designs very beautiful and appealing for the users to see, there is that something that is working behind the scene, which is the backend, right? There are APIs that are being fed to the front end. And when we talk about APIs, they're just interfaces that data, piece of data that has been sent to the front end, right? Then the front end picks that data and displays it in a more decorative way to the front end, to the users. I mean, hope hope you all are following, please. I want this to be, sort of interactive, but I'll continue. Yeah. So I mean, connecting with the backend is one or the major things a front-end developer or a front-end engineer does, right? Because user data is one of the most important thing because you come on Facebook and you see your picture, right? You have the mindset that you will always see your picture on Facebook or whatever you post. That is the job of the backend, feeding you all those data that has been saved earlier. Yeah. And we'll look at performance optimization, right? Your front end, as a front end developer, your front end or your website is not complete if it's a pain for users to use. Most times, as a front end lead, right, you are given a task, to manage a team, and you're working for a company that's going to revenue of millions, and their website now, you want the user is complaining that I don't know how this works. Every time I go on your website, it takes so much time to load. I mean, just to load the landing page is taking 5 minutes. Then there's something wrong. So as a front-end engineer, your duty or one of the major ways to show that yes, I am actually a front-end engineer is building performance optimized websites. Your website has to be so efficient that once they come in, once you go on Facebook, you see immediately you're seeing pictures. Even most times without even data, you can see already cached or previous pictures or images that you've seen before. Right. So as a front-end developer, performance is a key to a very, very good website. It has to be fast. All right. So let's move to the keys and technologies. So earlier we discussed about we discussed about some things that you need to consider as a front-end developer, right? Which we spoke about HTML, CSS, and all those other stuff. Now we are going to the big guys, right? These are the core programming languages. Now, we've said HTML and CSS for our design is the front thing people see. But now we have to put interaction, we have to put life into our websites. Now, this is where JavaScript comes into play, right? Now, what JavaScript does, I'm very, very sure we've heard of JavaScript. If not, I mean, it's an amazing opportunity to even know about it, right? So, JavaScript alone is the backend of web interactivity, is the backbone, sorry, of web interactivity, right? How our button interacts without JavaScript, it does nothing. So JavaScript was just made to, yeah, maybe you've designed this beautiful website, this beautiful website to see users or, to just upload your picture, but you cannot upload a picture without putting some interactivity into it. I mean, there's something that has to happen for most of these things to work. This is where JavaScript is the best for it. So you want this button to do this, you want this button to do that. Even when we talk about mobile, building mobile apps and all those other stuff without JavaScript. So when I talk about mobile, I also talk about React Native, but we'll get there later. But for a website, for example, now you want you go click on a menu, you see some websites where you're clicking on something and nothing is happening, and you're wondering, oh, probably this website is not good or this website is bad. This website is, let me just use the word trash. I mean, there is no interactivity in this particular website, but we have JavaScript for it, right? You can say JavaScript was a blessing to make users actually interact with real world applications. So you're building your app. JavaScript is the backbone, as HTML is the backbone for your design or for your animations, which is CSS. Now, JavaScript has its own community. Most front-end developers, I would say, once they learn HTML and CSS, they're like, oh, I'm good because I'm not going into JavaScript. JavaScript is a pain. JavaScript is this, JavaScript is that. I see that a lot. But I would just all I say is advice. JavaScript is not as difficult as everyone says it is. It's just, I would say it's stereotype. But now JavaScript is very, very, very seamless, very easy to learn. But it's massive. But at the same time, learning the core components of JavaScript is just a breeze, right? Then now we talk about TypeScript. So TypeScript is a superset. Let's say, okay, we have JavaScript, right? Then some people came together and said, you know what, JavaScript is perfect, but how do we make it the best? How do we make it better? I mean, it's on a road for perfect, for perfection. How do we make it more than, perfect? So they brought in TypeScript, things that previously you just put codes, but now you're making your code more secure and more readable and more understandable. So are you following this? Let me know when to stop or any questions for now. Anyone? All right, I'll go ahead then. So we've talked about JavaScript and yeah, TypeScript, like I said, is a superset of JavaScript. When I mean superset is it's a more advanced and a better approach into making JavaScript better. I don't know how it means that English, but yeah, it's just a a tool that was made to let's make JavaScript better for users to for engineers, for front-end engineers to use, let them enjoy themselves while using it. You're not enjoying yourself because TypeScript has meant to be uh has been rumored to be a serious pain. Imagine JavaScript a pain now, TypeScript an advanced pain. But now it's easier, right? It just makes your work seamless, if I use that word. Now we'll move into front-end frameworks and libraries. Now, when I say front-end has evolved from how it used to be before to now, when we talk about frameworks and libraries, these are tools that have made front-end easy. Front-end, it has made front-end, very, very easy. Even as a beginner, you already have boilerplates, you have what to work with, you have examples to look at while you're creating, while you're working with front end or while you're doing anything on React. So I'll use React as a main thing because so many organizations or the big guys, big tech guys in Silicon Valley, they use React for their apps. If we take example of Facebook by default created React, right? And they've shared, they've shared React to the world. That okay, this is what you guys need to use for a better front end development. And it has proven to be, very, very awesome. So React.js, as we all know, is a popular library for building UI, components. And when we talk about a front end library, they're reusable. There are things that are reusable across all boards, right? You bring it, you install React into your system, you're using it on VS Code, and you see boilerplates here and there, which later on we'll go into this. As you proceed in any classes and all this other stuff, you'd see how React.js works and how easy it is. Then now we move into Next.js, right? Now, when I speak about Next.js, people mistake Next.js and React.js. They feel okay, Next.js is separate or is different from React. No, it's not. React is always going to be the backbone for all of these frameworks. Like I said, the library is reusable across all boards. Now we have a framework, right? Now this framework is an avenue, for you to. It has given you so many privileges. I would say you have a framework, you have pre-written codes for you, like you have you want to create a button, they are just small, small codes, they are works behind the scene, right? Now you have Next.js. Next.js has been set to build, you can build dashboards, so many massive applications. And Next.js has been proven to, it is more effective than even the React that was there before. Because now it has made, a lot of provisions on how best to handle things as a front-end engineer. So there's so many. Now, this is a good thing. As a front-end dev, now you have so many options. You have so many things to look at, so many things to consider. You know, Now it's not as confusing as it used to be before. If you have a strict focus on what what you need to go into, what framework do you want to use. And we have so many actually, but I just listed out the three main guys, which is Next.js, Vue, and Angular. With my JavaScript, there are so many frameworks. The JavaScript I started creating. We have Svelte, we have some other ones, but I don't want to bore you with any of those ones. So I picked out the best three. Even as a front end lead, these are best ones that companies are actually looking for. There is a high demand for, is a Next.js Vue. Do you know Vue? Do you know Angular? You know, you'll say, okay, we're looking for a React developer, but what do you use? What framework do you use in React? Do you use Next? Do you use Vue or Angular? Which one are you more efficient in? I mean, so we know about Next.js. But let me mention one good thing about Next.js is the server-side rendering, right? So as React is evolving, most of these frameworks too are also evolving, sorry. So we talk about server-side rendering, right? Now, when you're loading an API, like I discussed previously, I spoke about, picking your data from a backend resource using an API. We'll get to that later. But now, when you go into your particular website, you can see all your data is loading in the speed of light. Like before your website, before you go into your website, you can already see the posts, you can see your username, you can see this, you can see that. And everything is just there, right? Because it has already pre-rendered or it has fetched all this data from an API resource and it is there for you to use. That is why Next.js has proven to be, a very massive tool for big organizations to use, right? And now we're talking about static sites. So static sites are as we say, are just your HTML, right? All you see first is just your design. Nothing is being called. It's just there. Like you use this for your plain landing pages now, or you want to showcase your fashion sites or your game website, something that doesn't require you calling an endpoint immediately. This is what your static site generation is. I mean, moving forward, these are things that you cover in your most of the website and front end classes. They're very easy and amazing. Like being honest right now. So for the keys and skills, as a front end developer, there's something I advise everyone that asks me question. You say, oh Eddie, so what do I need to know about front end development? Yeah, you already know about building UIs. Now you need to actually know or have an idea on actually building backend technologies, right? It's a plus for you. I mean, since we're talking about JavaScript and the entirety of JavaScript, it has is so massive that it has its own, you can build backend resources with JavaScript, right? As a front-end developer, do not or never limit yourself to building UIs alone. No, you're way more than that. As I said, you're a front-end developer or developers are the first guys. They're the main G's, if you permit me. I mean, so now we are building we're building backend, technologies. You can call yourself a full stack developer because it's still in the scope of web development or a front-end developer, right? So we see tools like Node.js. Node.js is still under JavaScript. So it's a JavaScript runtime for backend development. They're the same. Everything works together in unison, right? So there is the website for clients, the website for server. Now, when I say server, I mean backend. When I say client, I mean whatever the users see, that's your front end side. Whatever you design, the interactions, the animations here and there, things are happening on your website, the colors, this, the that, they're your client side. Everything the user sees on the client side. But whatever the user does not see, but also helps in your application is the backend side, which is the server side. Now, JavaScript as an entirety provides you this, these tools. And we'll go into, we have Express and we have Nest.js. There are frameworks. I already explained what the framework is. There are predefined codes that are there for you to work with and to make your life better. All right. So let's move forward to styling and UI frameworks. All right. So we have CSS. CSS is very, very important. In fact, your HTML without CSS is I don't want to picture how your website to look like, but yeah, as a developer or a beginner, you're just introducing yourself, you're coming into the front end ecosystem. Your CSS skills has to be very, very, very perfect. I mean, it has to be very good because for you to think of a design in your head, using just HTML would not achieve that, right? You have to put it's just like cooking. You say you want to cook stew, you mix this, you mix that. If the right ingredients are not there, it will come out very bad. I mean, that's what your CSS is there for. You're cooking a website, so okay, let him cook. I mean, he has his design, he has his layout there. But no CSS, your website will look very, very empty and very naked. It will look very, very naked. I mean, so that is what CSS is there for, to bring life or to bring a little bit of appealing or appeal to the eyes. So you go into your website now, you can see some amazing design, and users are very, I feel most users, some users don't even really care about the functions of their website. If your website is fine, they're like, wow, this is nice. And they'll keep coming back again and again and again. I mean, so as a you know, a front end developer, this is something you need to know. CSS, it's very, very important. Then we have SAS. So the same way we said we have JavaScript and we have TypeScript, right? SAS alone is, let me say, was created to make your CSS development better. I mean, you have CSS, which is beautiful, which is nice, but it wasn't perfect. So they created something new, something amazing for you to use as a front-end developer to help, writing your CSS codes more appealing and readable. Keyword is unreadable. As a front-end developer, you have to know how, to write readable codes. So you create a website now, for example, you've written your CSS, and you leave this website for a month or 2 or 3. You come back to your code and you're looking at it like, am I the one that wrote this? There is always something that reminds you that, oh, no, 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 I'm not sure I'm the one that wrote this, because now you're confused. You don't even know what you're looking at anymore. So CSS was there to create something perfect for you. Same as Tailwind. So when we talk about Tailwind, we'll move forward to it, but Tailwind was one of the best innovations, or it was the best inventions of coming to writing CSS. It made life very, very easy. So you're writing your CSS inline, everything is looking so perfect. And we have Bootstrap. Bootstrap is one of the OGs when it comes to writing, CSS. Bootstrap is way back. So now let's move to tools and version control. Now, when I talk about version control, is as a front-end developer, right, we use GitHub. I mean, you use Git you create a project. You do not want to lose this project, right? It has to be placed on a platform that you can always go to this platform every time and reference this project. And that is not only the functionality of these things, right? You can work with a team. For example, we have some people on this call. Okay, you all are front-end developers, for example, now, and you've all decided to, create, an application or a website that would reform a lot of things in the country. Let's take Nigeria for an example now. You say, okay, want to build something that users can come, save their money, or let's not even talk about that. We want to just build something that users will come interact with and all this other stuff. But as a team, if I, Eddie, I'm working on this project, and let's take Alex for example, is also working on the same project with me. Alex can't be coming. I mean, Alex is in Abuja. I'm in Lagos, right? I can't call Alex come all over, from Abuja to Lagos to send his code to me. Then I put it on my side. Then I push. No, from wherever Alex is, wherever I am, I can push my code to a single resource, which is GitHub or Git. There's so many, code pair websites. But for collaboration and code management, GitHub is the perfect example for this. I mean, then we'll go into Webpack, Vite, and Peso. So when we're talking about all these things, they are bundlers. I mean, when building your application, they are behind the scene compilers, right? I don't want to bore you with so many, things that you would need now. But I just want to prepare you for this whole journey of front-end development. I mean, then we talk about APIs and databases. Then we have the REST API. Because I said, as a front-end developer, it is very important to understand how backend works. Very, very important. Do not just limit yourself to only building front-end apps. Your way, you should think, it's not thinking outside the box, because I mean, you are the box. So you have to picture yourself that, okay, I'm building UI UX apps, and at the same time I'm building server apps also. It's what I need to do to become a perfect front-end developer. All right. So that being said, there are so many. We have REST and GraphQL. I'll touch bases on these two and just just speak on one or two things about them, right? Then we have Firebase, we have Superbase, and MongoDB. Moving forward in the classes, you get to understand all these things and how easy they are from top to bottom. All right, so let's move forward to yeah. So I mentioned earlier, as a front-end developer, you have to be at least 80 to 90% perfect, because you're building website for users, not just for yourself, right? And users, they have different tastes. I mean, I would say some users are very hard to even please. If they see a good animation, they see a good website, they say, okay, what does it do? I mean, so now we're talking about best practices. And when I talk about best practices, I mean, it's one thing to build a website that is nice, but on the long run, will these things fail you? Will you be confused if you come back to your code later in the next 2 or 3 days and you're like wondering what's happening here? So as a front end lead, this is something I make sure I speak to my teams. Okay, let's build readable codes with best practices. Front end development is always going to be perfect if your code is also durable. And as a front-end developer, a front-end engineer, you need to know how to build your front-end apps with best practices. I mean, so we'll talk about the first key here, which is your code structure and organization. I mean, from folder structure, everything has to be well detailed. You have to know where and where and where and where you need to go for you to make a change. Because I mean, you're not just building small applications. We're talking about big things, big big applications that will be used across all boards, right? Across millions, not even just in your state or your country. Other countries too will be using this program, and users are different. So now your code structure has to be very, very, very perfect. How well you can make your change without it affecting another one is a very good quality of a front-end engineer. You should be able to go into your code and, okay, I want to change this button here, and okay, this will not affect something else, somewhere else entirely. Because when you start building things on front end, you learn to use reusable things, right? Your components, for example, just I would use words like components. For your components, for example, now can be used. Let's say you have a login, at the same time you have sign up. You can say, okay, I'm using the same components, but there are different functionalities that these things are supposed to do, right? Now, if you mess things up, there will, there might be issues on the long run, because now users are putting their username and password, and users are just putting their first name and last name and all this other stuff. And you're seeing on login, something is happening, something is not right. Your code is not well structured. It has to be structured from your apps to your utils to where you put your images to where you put your fonts. All those resources has to be very, very perfect as a front-end engineer. All right. So when we talk about using modular and reusable components to avoid redundancies, like I said earlier, why React is one of the best in the business is because you can reuse things. I mean, you have a component to fetch user data or fetch user details or save user details, right? Now, you will need this same component somewhere else. All you can do is export this component into that page and to serve the same purpose. Then, or in the classes, we'll talk about, some key things like props and all of that stuff. I don't just want to bore you with too many details for now. I mean, fine for this whole thing. Then we're talking about maintainability and scalability. Writing clean and readable code as a front-end developer is very, very important. Your naming convention, for example, imagine you come, you're writing a code and you want to save user details and let's say your variable, let's say data storage, or you say, what example can I use now? You just call it something a bit vague, and your naming convention has to be in line with what you actually want to achieve, right? I mean, you want to create a variable, it has to be in line with what you want to do. Yeah. Then we talk about using TypeScript, which you'll be seeing examples in classes and all that stuff, right? Then when we talk about do not repeat yourself, it's the same thing. Avoid redundant codes. You've already created a component that can be used for another purpose. Use it instead of creating that same component for another thing. It becomes confusing and redundant. And yeah, now we want to build performance scalable websites. When you do this, it slows down your website. We'll get to that also later. Yeah, then we'll talk about performance optimization for your images, assets using lazy loading. So we want our website to be, beautiful. We put images on our website. As a front-end developer, you put this resource, you put that resource. You need to learn how best you can always optimize your images. If your image is 2 MB or more than, and you want to put it in your file structure, it will slow down your website. So probably later on, I'll be sharing some tools that you can always use to, reduce the quality of your images before putting them on your website, or use Cloudinary links so they can be links from another resource. I mean, so then we can think about minimizing renders, all this, we'll talk about them later. Then use code splitting. Then there's the suspense. We talk about React. This framework comes with so many good things that can help you build your website perfectly as a front-end developer. That's we're seeing the suspense. Suspense, I'll just paraphrase it, is when you want to build your loaders. I mean, you want this particular component to load real quick. Use your suspense to create a sort of appealing look for your users to say, okay, this is actually loading, right? It's there for you. So now we're talking about state management. We have context, which is the old method, Redux. We have Zustan, which is perfect. I think Zustan was one of the latest, state management tools, and it's just very, very seamless and easy to use. Then you talk about adding API calls. We have React Query. I mean, there are so many things that you not even add into this slide, which probably I'll share with the facilitator much later. But yeah, it's just to get more of the key concept. I don't know, I've been talking since. I hope we are following. Can anyone just signify and so I'll know we are actually following? Anyone? All right. Thank you, Mary. So I'll proceed then to responsive and accessible UI. So last time I spoke about how users actually move around with their phones. I mean, when I'm going out and I want to access your website, you say, "Okay, hey, check out my website." I'm not just going to whip out my laptop and say, okay, I am checking this guys with my phone. I mean, I log into your website and I'm seeing everything is just scattered. It's just all over the place. You know, for best practices in building front end websites, or for building websites, I mean, they have to be responsive. Responsive web designs are one way a user would feel very comfortable interacting with your website. I mean, if be it a dashboard, be it a landing page, it has to be structured on a mobile phone. There are some users that are so evil, they are so cruel that they would open your website on, you see their Apple Watch and all this other stuff. I mean, when they see your website, they're like, you know, it's a problem when your website is not scalable or mobile friendly. So now we'll talk about tools or layouts, CSS grids and all of that stuff. You have your CSS for that, like I mentioned before. CSS is there to help you. Then we have Tailwind and all those other stuff too. Then we spoke about version control. Now, when I talk about version control, it's one thing to push your codes or across different countries and all that stuff, but there's something you call your documentation, right? As a front-end developer, you're working on a project. I mean, the way you document your project is so good. It has to be perfect because it's something you reference later, right? So you put your code on GitHub and also that stuff. You document it properly. This is what it does. This is what it does. This is how the steps. These are the folder structures, like I said in the beginning, and all those other stuff also. Yeah. So now that we know about the best practices and all those other stuff, all these old best practices will help you in becoming a better front end engineer. I think that's the goal for this for the whole talk. Like, how do I become, how do I build scalable applications, and how do I become a better developer, a better front end developer myself? Yeah. So let's move on to building responsive web designs. I mean, I said how important building responsive designs are. It's so important because we are moving so fast in terms of technology and all those other stuff. No one wants to move around with their laptop. I can have my iPad with me. Even my iPad, to be honest, to me, it feels so big. It feels too massive for me to even hold. I'm just with my small iPhone or my Android or you know just a small device, and I want to access your website. These things are issues that you need to solve. You need to nail how to build like responsive applications as a front-end engineer. Then we look at CSS frameworks and preprocessors. To talk about Tailwind, the OG, Bootstrap, and SAS. Now, if we could highlight media queries, I'll just give you, I'll shorten it so it doesn't get too long, right? When we talk about media queries particularly targeting a particular screen size and making your website better on that screen size. So we're talking about from a screen size of, I think a normal Android should be of the height or width of 354 pixels or stuff like that. You'll be talking about pixels when you start writing like actual codes and all this other stuff. So I'll just prepare your mind down for this. We're talking about media queries. They're there for you to target a particular screen size, make it look like this, make it look like that on this screen size. So when it's another if it's a bigger screen size, make it look like this. Let it be perfect. Let it be this and that. You adjust your layout based on the screen size. Okay. Then we'll talk about accessibility. There are so many screen records or screen readers. There are devices that are just for screen readers, right? And you want to access your website, it has to match these guys. It has to be perfect for them. So I'll just speed things up. We talked about performance optimizations, which I already spoke about, reducing images and reducing files also. As a front-end developer, these are things you need to really, really, really consider, right? So, now we speak about API integrations. I mean, as a front-end developer, I will keep saying this so many, I don't even care the number of times I say this. As a front-end developer, you should know how to interact with the backend. It's very, very, very important that you know what you're doing or how you're interacting with the backend. It's not a plus because it's something you should actually have or it's something you should know. I mean, so we talk about RESTful APIs. They're just things here and there just put into consideration. And when you know all these things, there's nothing that would stop you from becoming one of the best front-end engineer in existence, not even the world safe like. Because these are just the basic things you need to know, just to become a perfect front-end engineer. Yeah. So, RESTful APIs. Now we're talking about APIs. We use what's the name? HTTP methods. HTTP methods. You have the CRUD, operations because we spoke about user data. For example, you want to be able to save, you want to be able to delete, so many things like that. Then we talk about GraphQL. So when we talk about GraphQL is just for, you just want something small, but in a way that makes it faster. You have something small, a very small API, you just need to fetch. And it's so fast and efficient that you don't even know when it loads. It's just there for you to see. You are just looking out for just one thing. So moving forward is something you would learn and you get to use in your journey as a front-end developer. And fetching APIs in front-end, we have Axios. Previously, we used to have something called Fetch. Those are the OG days, but I said technology is advancing. A lot of things are changing here and there. So at the same time, as a backend, integrating APIs to their best practices for all those guys, using environment variables. You need these guys to save API keys because they are meant to be secrets and all this other stuff. It shouldn't be out there for people to view. It's your website, a normal someone can just come in and say, okay, this is their base URL and copy it. No, as a front-end engineer too, you should also put security. Securing your website is an added advantage as a front-end engineer. It's something that needs to be considered. I mean, all right. So, if there are any questions, please, you can always, drop, you can drop your questions and I'll be there to see them. I deal with you. So we'll talk about resources. I mean, there are so many resources um, for front-end development. I will talk about Dive now, for example, bringing out, you know, amazing guys that want to learn front-end. They're there to help you guys in this journey. But there are so many things, please, I would say a community of front-end developers of the past or now. They've put together so many things that you need to, you just need to make your journey better. I remember using W3 schools in back in the days, and W3 schools is so wide that I mean it has so many things that you need. So many things that you need, from building your first HTML to advanced React topics and all that stuff, free code camp, many, so many. Then there are coding practices. I mean, as a front-end dev, you need to challenge yourself. A front-end developer alone, you need to challenge yourself with so many things. Is it data structure and algorithms? All those other stuff you need to put into consideration. And we have, tools and documentation. I spoke about previously how you document your code is always so important for you to use or reference later. How you document your code is always important, very, very, very important. Because I made example of myself, made example of Alex. Now I'm doing something on my own side. If it's not properly documented and Alex is doing something else entirely, the sync would fail. There won't be a proper sync in future. So these guys will, you would learn how to, check supports for features, fast online friendly developer documentation, that's dev docs. It has so many things you need to use, make this faster. Then finally, let's look at AI. So there's something as a front-end developer that I don't want to say is becoming quite scary, but it's the fact that a simple AI prompt can build, you know, amazing websites for you. But at the same time, yes, it can build these websites for you. But you as a front-end developer, how best can you beat these systems? Like how can you be better? Yes, AI can make this form for you, but you can make it better. I mean, I remember someone said, oh, yeah, a front-end developer, AI will take your job very soon. I was laughing because even as a lead, I know it's not possible. It's just talk. As a front-end developer yourself, AI will help you in building your applications, but it can never take your job. I'm big. It's something I really need to clear out. So there are so many things you can use to make your life better in building AIs. And I think I have some saved. You can still see my screen. For example, let's look at this guy. Um, this is one AI I came across some days back, and it's so nice because if I give it a prompt, just a simple prompt, build a form with email and password, then it takes time to think, iterate, and all those other stuff. So in less than few minutes or so, it starts generating some codes for you. Now, We spoke about CSS, which is this. It's crazy how much it does. It's baffling, I swear. But at the same time, these guys are just there to help you. But I don't know, as a team lead, I don't really advise people to use AI. I want you to understand this, understand the core, concepts of front-end development before you even start using AI to build your stuff. Understand how it works, understand how to put a button here, understand how to put a form, understand how to retrieve things from your form. Now you can see this was built based on just a prompt with validations and all of that stuff. It's crazy. So technology is moving way is moving. It's moving faster than even we ourselves can't imagine. So we have to know how can we be better than these guys? Like what extra advantage are we adding, in building websites, and it's not just building website, building mobile application, because everything the user interacts with is considered front end. And you as a front end developer, you're meant to be in charge of all those things. Yeah. So I don't know if we have I don't know if you have any question for now. Any, you know, any question. Are we still there, please? All right, Mary.
Okay. Hi. Good evening, Mr. Giwa.
Hi, good evening.
So, concerning Bootstrap, I don't understand. You didn't like give proper explanation because I've been seeing some videos about Bootstrap, but I don't really understand the concept
Yeah,
of Bootstrap.
Bootstrap.
Yeah,
All right.
I think like
Easy
explain.
question.
Thank you.
Okay. So when I said Bootstrap, I mentioned CSS, right? So Bootstrap per se is, you know, still CSS, but they made CSS inline. For example, they had so many how do I explain this? They had like so many inbuilt classes because it's a framework, it's a CSS framework. You're still writing your CSS, but everything is happening inline. For example, I think let me show you an example. I will just go to Bootstrap site. I actually want you to get it properly. Yeah, I call this guy the OG because man, it has existed before even me myself came into front end development as a whole. Um, Let me just show you examples. Let me use snippets for this real quick. All right, Mary, let me just ask you a question real quick. Do you know, 18 or 2 on CSS?
Yes, sir. Yes, I do.
Okay. So what Bootstrap does is still your CSS. You still have your CSS, but now you have your CSS inline as in classes. So you know the way you create a class name in your code. For example, you're writing HTML and you create class name, right? Now CSS already has inbuilt class name. The way you call your flex, or let's say you want to give your text color, you want to give your text color. You don't need to put a class name in your text and call it. You go into your CSS file and do that. Now Bootstrap will do everything for you automatically. Like, let me show you. Let me see if I can view an example here on color. I'll show you a real time example here. Just give me a second. This. Okay, let's use this like create this with bootstrap. It's bootstrap. All right. So like I said, bootstrap is the same way I explained Tailwind, right? All your classes are inline. You don't have to you don't have to, you know, assign a class, then you take your class into your CSS file and start putting styles into them. No. All you have to do is call your bootstrap class. There are packages like we have here for you. That's why the documentation is here. I mean, so they're just packages. This is an entire framework on the whole. Then you can put it, copy the classes. There's so many class examples and all this other stuff there too. Mary, I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
Yes, sir. I get what you're saying.
All right. So they're just the regular CSS you have, but they made life very, very easy. All you have to do is copy your class name. I think I'll add this resource to um I'll be adding probably when I share the slides, I'll give all this whole resource to the facilitator himself. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. So any other question whatsoever? Do you have another question or anything we need to know? All right. So I want to show you guys something. I mean, so I think I got some resources of um an example of a bad website. Now look at this. And I don't know whoever did this, but yeah, this is um a proper example of how a website should not be built. First, as a user, if you see this website alone, I'm very sure a lot of things will come into your head like, okay, what am I looking at here? There are just so many things going on here. So, as a front-end engineer, a front-end developer, these are things you're meant to ignore or do not just do. Don't at all. Let your website be perfect. Let your website be, you know, beautiful and user-friendly and appealing to the eyes. I think I saw another one also. I mean, they're just terrible websites. My God. So this is just, a prompt that whatever we build as a front-end developer has to be, appealing. Then I got some example of, good websites, perfect website, um, responsive website. So if I scale this all the way to a mobile view, like I explained the last time, now let's say this user is using um, a 6.1-inch Android phone or iPhone per se. Then you can see how scaled this website is. No matter how bad or how much I decide to scale this website, it will sit perfectly. If I keep scaling it that much, it will sit perfectly. I mean, so these are, you know, amazing examples of how, as a front-end developer, you should always learn to build um, your front-end applications. Yeah. So I don't know if we have any other thing. Um, any questions? I feel we need to ask questions. Uh, I feel we really need to ask questions so we can tackle issues or any challenge you faced as a front-end developer. Anyone? All right. I think Mr. Alex, are you there, please?
Yes, I am.
Um, yeah. So I just want to know if there are any other things or any question we need to know. I'm always going to be here, and I can share my contact information with the facilitator in case of any other question. Okay. So if we have none, um, I think I should ask a thing or two, so I know if we, um, yeah. So we're actually engaged in this whole thing. So I just want to put this question out there. Can anyone say, well, just from what we've seen or what we've learned, can anyone explain or just tell me, qualities of probably a good website? Anyone? Mary, yeah. I was funny enough, I was about to even call Miss Mary. So can you just,
Okay. Okay. So that should be the speed,
yeah,
the functionality.
yes.
Am I am I
Yeah, you're
getting the
getting it
point?
right. You're right. Ideal, but all right. So
Okay.
yeah,
And
you're right.
yeah, and the design. Should I say the design or
The user experience.
yeah, the user experience? Yeah.
All right. Awesome. I think yeah. So that's right. I mean, the speed optimization, it has to be fast. As a good website has to be, you know, you can't just come to a website and just see it's loading and loading and loading. I mean, it's bad user experience. Can anyone else just give me and thank you, Mary. Thank you so much. Can anyone else give me an example of a perfect web? What do you consider a perfect website? All right. SEO optimization. My God, I actually did not talk about SEO's optimization, but that's perfect, officer. So yeah, when you're so when we talk about SEO optimization, I mean your website alone should be in reach on so many people. So users will come to your website and say, okay, what do you do? Let's say I offer rides and I created a website for users to book rides and all this other stuff. And I call my platform Dive Rides, for example. So I go into Dive Rides and by default, this should give me dive rights. When I search, okay, where is dive rights? And also, I can see an example of these things. Your SEO makes the reach to users faster. So thank you so much, Nafisa. It helps users find your site faster. That's what SEO optimization is. So any other person, please. Any question or you know what makes a website, what makes you an amazing front-end developer, or any challenge. Okay, I think I should just move forward to what challenge have you ever faced as probably as a beginner in front-end development? What challenge have you faced? So we could talk about them. Anyone? Yeah, Mr. Alex, are you there with me? Is Alex on call?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Um.
Yeah, okay.
So I was asking, what challenge have you ever faced in front end development or front end as a front end developer? Okay. That said user friendly design.
Okay, you asked me personally.
Yes.
Okay, it's long I design a website or I code, but
Okay.
let me say one of my challenges is responsiveness. How
Responsiveness.
to make a
Okay.
website. So I think I start with desktop first when I'm coding,
Yeah.
and then try to frame it to a mobile interface. But it has been hard. I don't know. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm still learning though. Yes.
I
That's my
understand.
number one
Valid.
problem.
Okay. Awesome. But so as a front end developer, I would always advise you start from mobile. So the best sorry enough start I'll get to you very, very soon. Sorry. So the best developers or you achieve you achieve, a more responsive design if or when you start from mobile. So you start from mobile screen, like I explained here. So now here is a mobile screen. You can see the width here. We're seeing 339, you know, pixels and all this other stuff. This alone, if I scale this to an iPhone SE, this is it. So you start from here. Then you start building from here and you keep scaling on you get to this place, you can see the layout has changed on let's say this is an iPad view. You keep going, it keeps scaling, and yeah. So thank you, Alex. So it's just an advice that we should always learn to start building our applications or websites from mobile view, then scale to desktop view. All right, thank you. Nofisa, thank you. I think you can go ahead now.
Yeah, same with me. The responsive design too. I usually start from desktop. So if I want to use like the mobile for mobile or tablet, it will start giving me issue. That's one. And two, which pixel is for mobile and which pixel is for tablet? I'm usually confused about using pixel for mobile, tablet, and the others. So that
Okay.
has been a great challenge.
All right. So I understand. So when we talk about Pixel, can you see my screen? Can you also see my screen? For
Yes.
example, you have your website, right? And I want to see how responsive this website is. I mean, I click on inspect, which is you're inspecting the elements of this entire website. When you go on inspect, you see something like dimensions there. At first, you won't see this. All you see is this console, and what console shows you is your code, right? Then you see this icon. Can you all see this icon here? There's this icon that just shows you sort of toggle device toolbar, or you can click Control Shift M. So you click this. So Nofisat, this is addressing your question now. For you to know the particular width of a phone, so you click on iPhone SE or any other phone here. Are you seeing the default width for this guy is 375 pixels? Can you see it, officer?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. So it's 375 pixels for a device, for a mobile device. Then we move to an iPad. An iPad is way bigger, or a tablet is way bigger than, your, what's the name now? Your regular, phones. So an iPad is of a width size of 768 pixels. So let's move to iPad. You can see it now. The width alone has increased to 768 pixels. So this is how you capture or you catch like the screen sizes. So you say, okay, from 768 pixels, scale this way. Then now we talk about a laptop, right? A laptop can be as massive as, let's say 1900 pixels. So do you get what I'm saying, officer?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So you can always, this is a tool that would help you. As I have is on every browser, if you're on Firefox or Edge or anything. You go to your toolbar, you inspect your elements, like I said. You inspect your elements here. Then you scale. If you want to just scale manually or you want to select mobile phones from here, you just keep scaling to see where does my website, where, if it's here now, and for example, an image is lapping on this guy, something is wrong with your responsiveness. Something is wrong at that particular view. So you go back into your code. We already spoke about media queries. Moving on, you get materials and all those things too. So or a media query, you say, okay, I'm attacking what's the name now? 768 pixels. I want my design to look perfect on this screen size. Make it like this, do it like this, do it like this. And on that particular screen size, everything will adjust. You get. All right. So any other? Okay, enough, sir.
Now I want to ask, what's the difference between using ordinary width and max width or min width? What's the difference?
All right. So for max width, you're talking about you want something from 100 pixels to 600 pixels, for example, and you're saying anything outside 600 pixels, do not do what I want this. All I want to do is it has to be within 100 or the pixels, the max width you added. You get. So you're saying while in your responsive view, for example, now you put 600 pixels, your design or whatever you put your media query will not exceed 600 pixels. It will stop there. But when you're talking about minimum width, so you said from 600 pixels above, do this. Do you get? So it will say, okay, I want this particular text. I want it to be read from 100 pixel to 600 pixel. You use max width 600 pixel text read. But you say, okay, from 600 pixel above, I don't even want this text to show at all. They use min with 600. I hope that explains it, officer.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
All right. So any other questions so we could just wrap up? Any other question? All right. So since we have none and I feel we could just, yeah, I think we could wrap up now. Alex, is there anything you want to say or all right, Chinedu. Chinedu, you can proceed, please.
Okay, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello? Okay. So you suggested we start working from mobile first, then scale up to desktop.
Yes.
So my question is, is there anything bad from working from desktop? Because most
No,
of
no.
the codes I've been writing so far have been starting from desktop.
So there's nothing bad, nothing bad
Okay.
at all. But when you work from mobile, you get to capture each viewport. When I say viewport, I mean each screen size better. You get.
Okay.
But I mean, even myself, once I can be working on like 5 projects at the same time. Let's say clients wants me to work on this landing page, a client wants me to work on this dashboard. I mean, I will not settle down and say, okay, I want to start working from a mobile view because I mean, I might be good at it, right? But there are times where I just start my layout from desktop because I just want to deliver this. If I say, okay, I'll give you back your project in the next 2 weeks, and I know more that 2 weeks, I have something else to do. I'll try as much as possible to make it faster and just, brush up everything on desktop view, then start scaling, start putting everything, stacking everything one by one. But at the same time, it still feels like you're rushing things. But if you settle down, you start from mobile, you start scaling all the way to desktop. If you try it, it's way better that way. And from what Nafisa had asked, it's always better for you to use minimum width every time you're doing your mobile responsive view because at that point it captures everything better. So if you're working with Bootstrap, like we said, or Tailwind, Bootstrap and Tailwind, when you're working with responsive view, by default they all start with minimum width because these guys they know this is the best way, except you change this whole thing in your config. But I mean, it's always better to follow their best practices because they are frameworks that have put so many codes in place for you to follow. So does that answer your question, Chineke?
Yeah. Yes, thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome. Any other question? Any other? It's better we ask, all the questions we need so we can, tackle or face all the issues here together. All right, Chineke.
Actually, it's not the question. You said you say your
Okay.
contact details with first. So, if I
Yeah,
have
I
questions,
think
my colleagues in the future, so I can refer them to you.
so. Can I say that again? I didn't hear what you said.
If I have problems, writing code and all, can help me out in any ways.
All right. I'll drop this on the in-app chat. I was thinking I did not add it to the slide. My apologies. Yeah, and I'll share my GitHub username too, just in case. All right. Chineke, can I say it?
But, yeah, I've seen it. Thank you very much.
All right. So any other issue, I'm always available. Um, yeah, I'm always available. I did for now. So any other question, I think, um, yeah, can ask there. I didn't drop my email. I'm not.
Yes, I am concerning, you were saying as a front-end developer, you must be 80% perfect. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay. Now I want to
I
ask,
can hear.
as a beginner now, maybe I have known maybe a little bit of JavaScript, React, and some framework. Does it mean that
Yeah,
I cannot start looking for jobs since I am not that perfect?
you can. So don't get me wrong. Everyone, as in human, we are working towards perfection every day, right?
Okay.
With whatever you have, even if you have your JavaScript, just a single project can get you your job. You get. So you don't have to be, you know, perfect that way. But all I'm saying is you need to work towards that perfection. You get what I'm saying?
Okay. Yes.
Hmm. So with any level of understanding you have, as long as you know that okay, yeah, I understand this, I can build a website, right? Even if I can't perfectly build this website, even if I can't perfectly build a responsive website, you know what you're doing, right? You can always apply for a job. I mean, it's always I even advise everyone to, start if you're looking for a job, you start early, like an internship, open source, anything. It's better to always start early. So amazing question, officer. So don't get me wrong, bro. I just want every front-end developer to always work towards that 80 to 90% of perfection. Because I mean, everything you create is always going to be, the last guys that will use your website are the users or they're the consumers. And once they complain, I mean, I've seen beautiful websites and someone will look at it and be like, what is this? Is this not too much? You can't really satisfy everyone, yeah. But you can make amazing things with your level of knowledge. But always strive for that level of perfection. Always. It's very, very important. All right. Does that answer, Officer? And any other person also?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other question?
No question for now.
All right. So thank you, everyone. And yeah, you can always reach out to me with phone number, email, anything. I'm 100% available to answer the questions. All right, Alex, I think you can proceed.
Okay, thank you for this amazing session. It's really insightful. You answered most of our questions. So you said you are going to share the PowerPoint presentation to us.
Right, yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll upload it here. So I was thinking of even sending it to the facilitator, but I mean, I could just make it open to everyone and drop my email. I think it's this.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for this class. You learned a lot, trust me. You can ask any of them, you learned a lot. So
Yeah.
this week, okay, okay, you've seen it.
All right. Sorry to cut you off. So I've shared the link, and I think it's open to everyone. And what I'll be doing is I'll be updating these slides. Right. I'll be adding more things. I'll even add code snippets and all this other stuff to help you. I'll add W3 school links and all this other stuff. You know what really helped me in my own journey back then? I'll share everything, with you guys so you see them and yeah. Sorry, Alex, for cutting you off there.
Okay, so I was saying this is an amazing class. So and the attendance is automatic, so no need for you guys to do any form or something. So this will be the end of this class. Thank you everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Mr. Giwa. Good to see you next time. So thank you. Guys, don't forget to click on
All
the
right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, have an amazing night, man. Later. Thank you, officer. Thank you,
You too.
everyone. All right. Bye, guys.